The more gratitude you put in your head, the more you push all the bullshit out. When you become grateful, like fully grateful, then your soul is fully nourished. When you're fully nourished and your brain is operating optimally, you get maximum impact. We should do something like a funny podcast, our funniest moments.
I'd love to do that.
You know, I really can. I'm sorry for the phlegm in the throat. I think I'm a little Flemish.
Flemish?
Yeah, but I don't know what Flemish is, whatever country that's from Flemania. I don't know.
So the question is, and on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the best, how happy are you in life? That's one of my boiled down questions.
You want the truth?
Yeah.
Maybe a 5, 6. I'd love to tell you I miss dearly not having a relationship with someone.
So
I miss that terribly.
So why the emphasis on that? Like, what's happening in your brain that is so pertinent? Because you have tons of love around you. People love you. They respect you. People will jump at the opportunity to help you.
You want the raw truth?
Yes.
Of course. I miss being hugged. Hugs are important. And I've been told I'm one of the best huggers. There's a gal that was pretty well known in the state. She's no longer in politics. She said, in front of her husband, who, God rest his soul, what a nice gentleman, just passed away a few months ago from a terrible cancer. She said, Jim Rabb, you were the best hugger. She said, I've had a lot of people hug me, but your hugs, they're so real and sincere.
Hey, I'm Sicilian, so hugs are telling. I mean, I've hugged people where they were like, it's like an icky feeling for them. They're like, you know what I'm saying? It's like, come on, man, let loose here.
Yeah, they're not used to it. Hearing I love you. We go back to, I'm sharing out of school. My dad, it wasn't something. My mom asked me, how often do you remember your dad telling you he loved you? And it was a tough question. I almost think it wasn't an appropriate one because I honestly can't recall.
That's him ever saying it?
Oh, I'm sure he said it a couple times, but I don't recall any specifics. The one thing I do remember is asking him if he ever has cried. He was not well. I didn't know if I'd be seeing him again. And I was sent to a private school. So I'm putting it right out here for you now. I didn't perform in school, 7th grade. My eyes were on this gal. This gal, to this day, I wish I had stayed with her. We went out for a little, we were boyfriend, girlfriend. I'd walk 1.5 miles away from my home and then 2.5 miles to get home after walking her to her house after school in junior high school. I was immediately smitten, whatever. And then we broke up. I went away to a private school. I wasn't performing in school. My folks sent me to a psychiatrist to have some tests on Rorschach tests, whatever. I tested very high IQ. I don't know the number. I was just told, and I know it was up there pretty well. Well, Jimmy, you're not performing to your ability, and we're really concerned. So they found this school for quote unquote emotionally disturbed children. I think my mom was emotionally disturbed, having gone through her dad divorced when she was 2 years old. She had issues I shared earlier. And I'm like, what? You know what? And I went up to the school in New Hampshire, a school that, in fact, if you know the name Temple Grandin, okay, she is very well known in the world of autism. This woman, phenomenal woman. There were very high performing people there, but some of them had nervous tics. And I'm thinking, why am I with these people? So for 2 years, but I learned I horseback rode almost all year round, worked on a farm. I've been this deep into a cow giving birth. I learned to work a lathe. I learned a lot of crafts, things that I do now periodically. So a lot of skills that I didn't know I had in me that I found very good. I was never a good student, and I wanted to get away from the school. In fact, not long after I got out of the school, sitting in my dad's car, and I look in the mirror, and this beautiful blonde's walking down the street with another gal. Oh my God, that's Joy. I got out of the car and she was like, we wound up going out for 2 years and I had lost a year. My brother and I were in school together in the same grade because I had been kept back a year because I didn't perform in 7th grade. 8th grade, I guess it was after 8th grade, I had to repeat 8th grade a second time. I did nothing in 8th grade. My mind was on women. I'm a practical learner. I don't learn from the book. But when I applied myself, I would do pretty well. And so I go away to this school. It was kind of weird. And then I go through high school with my younger brother. Went to college, didn't graduate college, majored in theater. I went to college up in Canada because it was a new theater department. Plus, we were winding down the Vietnam War. And I didn't really think I wanted to go. But it wasn't draft dodging per se. It was just the golden opportunity. I went up there overnight, flew up, connected with a ton of strangers. Wow, the Canadians are very friendly. But I'm out there. I've been putting myself out with people for a long time. I come home and I get my job Fuller Brush, selling the insurance. I got married. That didn't last long. But having somebody that's special in your life is, for me, important. There's some people say, oh, I could be alone. I could live happily alone. I'm not wired to be alone. I'm wired to get into the crowds for a bit, but then I need to go away just with someone. So that is an important thing to me. I don't want to die alone.
So I'm concerned because we only have two knowns in this life. We have our past and we have this present moment. Mm-hmm. That's the world according to me. Mm-hmm. Whether you believe in heaven and all that stuff, we don't know. That's just your belief system. So we can take our past and we can twist it into a nightmare, which shackles us for the rest of our life, or we can take that same exact data set and we can perceive it as a wonderful life already lived, a great foundation. Depending on what we do with that past data set determines the present moment. So if you're a 5 right now, that's because you're choosing a perception that doesn't serve you.
The anchors have not been cut. I'm kind of the past, and I'm learning to let go a lot of stuff. I must be, because my being out there more with people and having fun with people is starting to really bloom and flourish, where not being so serious. And I'm realizing that maybe I'm cutting these anchors that are dragging on the boat will move a lot faster. Sailboat will go a whole lot faster if there are no anchors there, but I've got the anchors. And I'm learning that I've got to let go of some of the past. And can you
reframe it, or do you have to let go of it?
Well, because I'm trying to turn some of it into strengths.
Because the textbooks,
to learn from it,
they say cut away from your past, but I don't agree with that.
No, you can't ever cut away from your past. You can repress it to the point that you never even look back at it. There are a lot of things I'm grateful for from my past. I mean, I'm here, I'm in this moment, and I carry with me some of the stuff from the past. Some has been very good. I'm a little disappointed that my dad didn't encourage me when he heard all those voices, having been in the cartoon industry. Oh my God. Just think what would have happened had he been more encouraging. Which, as I say that, I was always given freedom to do things. We were always encouraged to do things, go to Outward Bound, which is I don't know if you know Outward Bound, it's a survival school. I was the youngest one to go to Minnesota Outward Bound, and I was 16. Nobody under 18 was going there. They knew my mom. They let me go. It made a difference in me getting out of that private school where I met all kinds of people.
And could I just pause you on
Sure.
the dad thing? And again, these are my own conclusions and living life the way I live it. I am an accountability major. I take accountability for everything that happens to me. Mm-hmm. I even argue if a piano falls on my head, I have to take accountability for that. Where were my eyes? Why didn't I have the situational awareness that a piano was falling through the sky on top of me? And by doing that, it's freeing, because I know then that I am steering my own ship. Mm-hmm. Okay. And some people say, well, that's extreme. It's only extreme if I beat myself to death over a mistake or whatever, which I don't do. I could rethink things all the time, and I'm going to take every problem and extract all the nutrition from it. So when you say I have a disappointment with my dad in my world. That's blaming somebody else for a little bit of what taints you now. And you could have always taken it into your own hands and done whatever you wanted to do with your voice. You see what I'm saying?
Sure.
So,
and I think you're right. And I would agree with you.
And maybe you would let go of your dad a little bit. I mean, my mother had me when she was a teenager, and she died of a heroin overdose when I was a teenager. I don't fault her for anything. I could say she's a shit parent. She was, and I put it in my book. But my mother did love me with her heart and soul, and I knew that. Nothing that happened to me, good or bad, I mean, I'm not going to blame her for anything.
Sure.
So I'm just giving you a perspective angle is all I'm doing. I'm not saying you're right or wrong. I'm just saying the way I look at it.
No, I think there's absolutely it's a valid point. I was a guest on the Oprah Winfrey Show. And
how badass is that? I mean, come on.
Yeah, well, it was pretty good. In fairness, what happened, I just literally walked in the house. I had just broken up with a gal. I tended to go out with women that had kids, maybe who knows what it was, thinking, okay, they need partnership too. A little easier to navigate. But I walked into the house thinking to myself, literally, Frank, I'm thinking, this has got to stop. I got to stop these relationships. It's not working. I turned on the television. The credits were running for Jeopardy. And you hear the voice goes, if you find yourself repeating the same patterns over and over again, dial the Oprah Winfrey Show at 591-9111 or 312-591-90. I was on that phone like, boom, they're talking to me. I wind up talking to a producer. She has a psychiatrist who wrote a book called Fire Your Shrink. Call me. We interviewed for an hour and a half. She calls the Oprah Show, and it was the next day or whatever, and said, I want him on the show. And there were 4 other people. When I was a guest, I mean, it picked me up in the limo. I'm sitting there in the green room with the author. The author and Oprah were on the stage. We're just 5 people in the panel with the cameraman behind me. And, I mean, I knocked it out of the park. Oprah came up to me a couple times during the thing. She said, I'm amazed. You're sitting there. You seem so comfortable. Couple next to me, not so much. The guy we're about to start, he goes, don't worry, honey. There are only a few million people watching. She put a hematoma into his leg with her fingernails. I mean, he had to go to the bathroom and come back. It was just, but these people are way out there. But so I shared some of my story, whatever, but they put a graphic up on the thing. You made me think about it. Jim Rabb blames his parents for his unhappiness. Now, I never said those words, but they must have gleaned some of that from some of the things.
So interesting out of what I just said.
No, and I said, you just made me think about that. I wouldn't have even mentioned the Oprah Show. Oprah couldn't have been nicer to me. Put his tie up, Jim, you're awesome, whatever. My folks didn't. My dad saw it. My mom didn't. My sister recorded it. I made sure my mom didn't see that recording for months because my mom I told everybody, Jim's going to be on Oprah. Jim's going to be on Oprah. Finally, my sister went to visit one day and she says, you have the tape? She goes, no, I left it. She said, well, call Bill and have him overnight it. So she calls up to Gainesville. She's in Pompano. Overnights the tape. I get a phone call from my mom. This is months after it aired. My sister wasn't ready to give my mom the tape. Oh, still blaming us for your problems? I was like, oh my God. So you see the Oprah Show? Oh, I did. Well, and I had a lot of my friends watch it. Well, some of her friends, close friends, and some family members, cousins or whatever knew. My mom could flip on a dime, and really, she'd burn lasers through you, the looks that she could give. I said, Mom, I never said that. She just wasn't having any of it. My dad said, Jimmy, I thought you did a great job. You were very honest. You were truthful. I thought you did a great job. The graphics weren't great. Set your mom off. I said, I had no control over that. But so, yeah, I guess what I wondered is, had my dad said, Jimmy, you got a great talent there. You should pursue it. The sales, they'd say, oh, you're great at sales, do sales, whatever. So I wonder if, had I been encouraged more from somebody that had been in the business, so to speak, maybe I would have taken it further. I don't know. So taking personal responsibility for the choices that I've made in life. I know full well. I walk around my house and it's, this is where you're living. I should have a home like this. I know that this could have given me, but whatever reason I chose not to pursue, and it really has only flourished in the last, it was in 1980. 81 or 82, the first play I did here in Illinois, because I didn't know theater when I got out of school. I didn't graduate. I had a part that required a voice. They said, that's a great audition, but you got to do it for 2 hours. And it was a Rodney Dangerfield type of, not Rodney Dangerfield, Dudley Do-Right, the Canadian Mountie cartoon. I had the voice down cold. And that's the voice I used in the play. And people were, so I had a lot of shows I did because of my voice, but I never pursued it. I've tried a couple of voiceover classes. Something, and I've always been told, you're just afraid of success, which I can't try and figure that out. I'm just kind of opening up to you right now. So if it seems a little around the disjointed, I'm just sharing.
Well, here's the deal. I don't want my friend Jim to be a 5.
No, I don't want to leave a 5.
And my part of my mission is whoever I come in contact with to raise that number. And that's why I asked the question so pointedly. We talked about energy. You attract like energy. So if Jim Rabb's a 5, you're not putting your good energy out into the world enough to attract that person.
Right.
And it's kind of it's a double dip, because as your energy goes up, then your desire for somebody else to be with you goes down. But you'll still attract them and it'll still happen. Mm-hmm. But like the saying goes, you can always find a fool in a crowd and a wise man by himself. When you get to the point where you're at peace being by yourself, right. And believe me, I need the hugs too. I need female companionship. I am also wired that way. I think it's just the intensity we have for that varies from person to person. Some men need a female companion, like we're wired that way, and I'm definitely wired that way too. It's a little bit hypocritical of me to say what I'm saying to you because I've always had that. There's not a period of time where I haven't had that hardly ever in my life. And when I didn't have it, I desired it just like you. And not every man is like that, but we probably are pretty similar that way.
I've always been loyal. I've never cheated on a woman. I moved out here. I had a son, turned a year old right after I got here. He was out here for his first birthday. My wife was back east, banging a couple of friends of mine, doing things. I thought when I got married, I was committed and even relationships afterwards. I'm usually not the one to break up. A couple of times I should have, but I've never cheated. I've always been loyal. I picked it up. My dad, I know he never, he was a pretty straight shooter. He was a good man. And the idea that, I wasn't able to be with my son. I had a wife that really did some just bad things while I was out here getting things going and set up. I was very excited. Wasn't doing the voice stuff. I wasn't doing the plays until after that ended. And I always wonder, I guess I shouldn't blame her. Maybe it wasn't meant to be, but she's still to this day Biden supporter, a creep, got into the coke real heavy, doing stuff, changed my son's name. I call the private school he's at. You don't have an Ed Rabb here. I said, what? Oh, you talking about Eddie Needleman? I'm like, what the hell? Some shitty stuff. And
is that her maiden name?
He passed away at 46 from a major heart attack. So her maiden name was Swartz, but she married another friend of mine. And they decided they'd put him in, change his name in school, which screws with his head. And the guy was abusive to the kid. But the idea, I got married. My folks were married till my dad passed. And there was no marriage is perfect. You have moments. You ever go fishing? Well,
fishing is the only thing I can do that I actually let go of the entire world.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, me and going out in the middle of the woods up in Canada with my dog when I had a dog, 2 weeks in way north of Toronto with a canoe, paddle one lake after another. People are like, you were 2 weeks in the woods alone?
That's badass.
What would happen? I said, what do you mean? You could have drowned. I said, but I'd be doing what I enjoyed doing. And I had some pretty hairy experiences, but I made it through because I had gone to Outward Bound. And in Outward Bound, I learned whatever you put your mind to, you can do within reason. I can't slam dunk a basketball. I mean, that's not going to happen. But other things, if I put my mind to it, I know I can do it. And that was the most valuable lesson I learned. But there's as I say it, other part of my head saying, well, Jimmy, if that's the case, why aren't you doing the voice work? Why aren't you? So I don't know. And I'm sitting here thinking, it's almost like I'm sitting with a counselor and I'm not, if you understand, I'm opening up is what I'm doing with you. So, and I have no issues with doing that. You asked a question and maybe you're able
because
to
I care. And I think that gives you the segue.
No.
And that's both of our superpowers, by the way. You get people open up right away with you. They don't feel threatened with you.
Yeah, I have no agenda to hurt anybody. I mean, and Ricky has been very encouraging. Jim, you got to just go out and do it. What's stopping you? That's the $64,000 question. When I'm on the phone, nothing stops me. When I'm talking with people, I actually told Ricky I'm thinking of coming in here with a blindfold on because I didn't know where we were going to go, if I'd be doing voices, whatever. And I'm wondering if at the safety of being in my home, nobody's having to watch me. I don't know.
So we all have this little demon inside of us, and the demon is that little fucker who says, "You're not good enough." Is that guy? Does he have control over you right now?
I think he's had a lot of control. When I got sent away to school, it was a mind fucker. Especially if you saw some of the people I was in school with at this private school. I mean, great stuff, great, beautiful setting. I learned a lot of stuff, picked up a lot of skills, had a lot of experiences most people don't have. I never thought of myself as not being good enough prior to, and I don't know that I consciously thought that even afterwards, but maybe that's just the way, because I know I have a lot of God-given talents. And when I'm focused, when I do my plays, I mean, the reviews are out there. Great job. People are like, man, I did a show in Chicago the night before. I'm doing rehearsal. The director said, Jim, you're not going to. On stage, she's crying. She comes up. I was Scrooge in Christmas Carol. She's got tears. She's, oh my God. This is 180 degrees different than what you showed me last night. What the heck happened? So all those chairs were out there. I was obligated to give them the best that I had. And that was the only answer I had for her. I get energy from other people, but I also, like I said, need to stay away from the large crowds because it's just not. Maybe I want all eyes on me. I don't know, Frank. I'm all over the place.
Well, I mean, I just think of scenarios here. If the trajectory of this podcast goes the way I would like it to, which is a long shot, and I'm not tied into the future to live in the present and be a 10 because I am a 10, but it's the pursuit where it makes me the 10, right? So when I go, if my trajectory takes me to where I would want to go, I would want to have, like Patrick Bet-David, who I sent you, he's got 4 guys he sits with every day. Mm-hmm. Occasionally, he'll do a podcast by himself. He'll talk about why the real estate market's going to crash. He does instructional things like that too. But whenever he has a guest on, he has his team on there. That's his home team. And I want that. I want to have my home team. And I'm looking at you today thinking to myself, this guy's perfect for the home team because you have the voice and you have the emotion and the good-heartedness and that inquisitive mind where we could talk, bring guests on and you'll be a major contributor. So I just have that in the back of my mind.
I want to be part of something. I'm involved with some of these groups that are somewhat political in nature. I'm working with the founder, Dr. Renteria. It's either Renteria, just so that you know, because I'm sure you're going to wind up doing a podcast with him. I would be shocked if you didn't.
And by the way, Mark Rice is coming next week.
Excellent. He was so excited when I spoke to him. And that made me feel so good. I did something. It was no sweat off my nose, no sweat. I just did what felt natural. That's all I did. And I would love to think that people will hear him. I don't know him very well. I know you better. I've spent more time with you than I have with him. Just today,
we had a lot in common. He was on the same trading floor as me.
That, yep.
And then we got into we went deep in our discussion here, and he's like, "Well, it's like being a local and having you're the bag man. Like only a floor person would understand this." I'm like, "Holy shit, he's the real deal."
He's a good man. I could sense. I don't know if he shared with it. He lost family members. He lost some people in Israel to the attack.
He did tell me that,
and he got pretty choked up in front of the folks.
That would be something we did not agree on, because I told you what I felt about Israel, right. And that is the Jewish people are being exploited by those who portray themselves as Jews anyway. I touched with him with that. I go, and maybe we could talk about that and not agree, and that would be interesting.
And it's okay to if we can agree to disagree, mm-hmm. But we can, and that's my whole thing with I've got friends that are Democrats, a friend. Because most of them have said, you're out of your freaking mind. I said, there's a coup against Trump. Yeah, you're fucking crazy, Jim. This was when they first started going after him. And I don't talk to him. It's a couple people I hang with. And I got another friend. We can touch the subject, but we know how far to go. But we still speak. I refuse to let outside sources divide us. But I'm not going to force myself on somebody that says, Jimmy, you're a fucking asshole. You think the fuck Trump's a goddamn moron, blah, blah, blah. I mean, I'm living in this world, Hey, you like paying $4 a gallon for gas? Or you think we should have Kim Jong, the crazy? The fact of the matter is, however it worked, maybe by chance that there were no wars during Trump's time. And he moves, they kept saying they're going to put the thing over in Israel. I don't follow that deeply. But it did happen on his watch that they finally put with the embassy in Jerusalem or whatever it was. Just heard last night, he's the only president that's never had a slave in his whole history in his family. Somebody just I think it was yesterday I heard that. The only president, Obama, Bush, of the last seven, that there were no slaves
in his lineage.
Exactly. Even Obama, there were slaves. And that guy still don't think he's American. But anyways, I'm going to leave here feeling more empowered.
You're it may be even unbeknownst to you. And I've been talking a lot about this. Gratitude is that's the key component to living your best life. The more gratitude you put in your head, the more you push all the bullshit out. Mm-hmm. When you become grateful, like fully grateful, then your soul is fully nourished. When you're fully nourished and your brain is operating optimally, you can have maximum impact. How many people can you help if you're in a depressed state and, oh my God, I don't know what I'm going to do? And so that's part of my legacy is for me to reach my goals, mm-hmm. I have to be the best and strongest version of myself, which means I have to work on myself every day. And gratitude is the number one thing. I loop that in all the time to the point where I tell myself, I've already lived 2 full good lifetimes. This is how I feel. And because I feel that already, it eliminates all fear. Mm-hmm. In other words, if I die of a heart attack tonight, I'm good with that because I'm on my mission. I'm doing what I want to do to get to where I want to be. I'm giving it my best every day. I didn't waste any moments today. If I got angry for a little period of time, I realized I was angry. Anger doesn't help me live my best life, and I put the fire suppression system on. Anger is very short-lived with me. Now, there's a positive type of anger, and that's we all have the anger gene in us, but anger is there primarily to trigger the fight in our fight, flight, or freeze. So I did in one of my podcasts, I talked about a mother zebra and her little adolescent zebra galloping down the African plain. And the lioness, this is a real video, pounced on the little zebra, got it in the throat hold immediately, and the mother turned around and started snorting. And that anger triggered her fight, and she went at the lion and started biting the lion and the lioness released the little zebra, and they tried to get away, and then the lioness pounced on the mother zebra, and she started kicking, and she caught the lioness flush, and that lioness was done, and they ran away. And when those animals get to where they're feeling safe, they come right back down to their peaceful state.
Mm-hmm.
That's what anger is supposed to be used for.
Controlled.
We manifest the anger where it doesn't serve us. But if that anger triggers that action of fight, like we're fighting the system. I'm angry about the government that I have and how corrupt the system is.
Excuse me.
It's not an anger, a hurtful anger. It's the anger to trigger the fight.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I'm doing. And you're doing that every day. Like you're getting involved in these groups. These groups are patriotic groups. This guy, Mark Rice, sounds like a true mensch, in my opinion. And I've never backed a candidate. I voted for Trump for various reasons. And it's the only time I ever voted in my life because I'm so cynical about the system. I would love for this guy, Mark Rice, to be a guy that I would actually openly back and say on a podcast, you're my guy, I'm endorsing you. I don't want to get involved in politics, but if he is a true unicorn, then I certainly will be vocal about him. So, but back, you're on a really good mission. You are bringing light into the world every single day. Your humor, touching people, reaching out to me. I know that you're doing this as many times a day as you can, and that's super important. And I hope you take what I'm saying to you to take some credit for it. It's you're doing really good for mankind, and there's no higher calling, in my opinion, than that. So.
Thank you. And Dr. Renteria, he has been a huge influence. He did pay for me to go into a studio with a guy that's won awards for his soundtracks and movies. He paid for me to go in. I did a tape. He says, Jimmy, it's freaking awesome. I listened to it. It's like,
is it like a demo tape for you?
Kind of, yeah. It's it's like a file, but demo tape. But I was just making up voices and doing, whatever was coming to mind. I had no script. I did play for him on my phone some stuff that I had done. He goes, "Who's that?" I said, "That's me." Those are you? I mean, my range, I've got probably 35 different distinguishable, but I hear me every time I hear him. It's just like this morning on the radio, Scott, whatever his name is, in the morning on NPR, which I call National Propaganda Radio because they lean far left. My voice gets in my way. So I haven't sent the tape out to anybody. It's like, Jim, I paid for that. What have you done with it? I've worked real hard for his foundation. I'm dead serious about it. When people see me talking, I said, Doc, I like talking more about Barrio because I'm helping people. I'm changing the world with his message. He's changing the world. He's touching lives. The kids, his focus. So 5 years, I'm doing something that if 10 years ago you said I'd be doing it, I don't think so. I would have said, no, I don't think so. Met him, I walked away, took his book, read 3 pages, put it down, but he called me, says, hey, Jim, you want to get together? So we got together for a beer, whatever. For a year, I'm spending time with him 2-3 times a week, meeting up with him, just talking. And I'm telling people about Barrio. And when I finally read the book, things really changed and I was emotionally moved reading his book. I had no idea. Oh my God, this guy, I couldn't put the book and him together. I knew him. I've gone as far as saying he almost reminds me of a Mother Teresa. I believe when he was in his coma, he was told, somebody visited him and said, you will be a messenger, but you're going to go through hell before you become the messenger. And that was at 6 years old, a severe brain injury that if you haven't maybe taken some of it out of the book, but I don't care.
Well, I listened to his whole TED Talk, and I'm making my way through the comic book one. So he told that story in the TED Talk. So I listened to that whole thing.
Oh my God. I've been out and not have my cards in my pocket. And I open my wallet to give somebody my card. In fact, right now, his is always in my pocket. But when I run into people that said their lives changed, major, this gal says to me, I was a major gangbanger in Chicago with my boyfriend. found the book, read the book. We're married. We both work. We own a home. We have a child. Without that book, that was all I needed to hear to know that I was 100. Can't be more than 100%, but I was 100% in. And he knows. And he said, Jim, if this thing after 18 years gets to what he wants, I want you sitting in the next seat. He knows my heart. He's a phenomenally humble man. And he says he was with a politician. And he goes, yeah, look, I'm even whiter than you are. You wouldn't know to look at him that he was Hispanic. His name, he doesn't have an accent.
How does he say his name? How does he say it? Renteria or Renteria?
Renteria. Because I don't. I say Renteria. And I've asked him, but I get it. This is both ways. I just don't call him Bob. Because I made that mistake one day. He says, oh, please don't ever call me Bob. Because people take liberty. My name's Robert. But he is very humble. He doesn't fly his flag. His office is full of awards and recognition. It's like, I've read letters from kids that he's never shared with it. He doesn't share. People have no idea what makes this man who he is. I do. And I've been blessed to have that experience. I guess I'm a disciple. I don't know what else to say.
I would love to really get to know him and maybe become part of his cause.
He has connected so many people and at high levels. LULAC is just a Latino, I don't even know what it stands for. He's spoken Milwaukee stage with Elizabeth Warren. Not that I like these people.
Pocahontas.
Yeah. She even had slaves in her family. And Bernie Sanders and some other people. If I just send you the lineup, and I'm looking, it's like, shit, this is Jim 18 years ago. And he got to a point, he was on his knees praying. He was almost flat broke. He's put $400,000 of his own money, and maybe speaking out of school because he was close to losing his home. But he had been living the high life, watches, cars, all kinds of stuff. But he put his money into this. When others would have quit, he kept going. He said, Jim, I don't think anybody else's hands, this wouldn't have happened. Smart guy, sharp guy, business. I've had to consult with him. Hey, Robert, what do I do? Wow, I never would have thought of that. But very, very sharp. And he's got some high profile people that are engaged with him. But anyways, and I, like I say, he paid for my demo. I've got it. I could, if you're interested, I could send it to you. I got to get it back from Eddie Torres.
At a bare minimum, and, I don't know a whole lot about voiceovers. You could easily start a business at very little to no cost. All you need to do is start marketing yourself. My buddy who got one of my best friends who was instrumental in telling me, write the fucking book, start the podcasting. Mm-hmm. He's on his own mission. He had a guy he paid for a voiceover. And now, your coach, Triple T, Tall Trucker Tom, just that. And he paid money for that. Mm. And it took the guy, 60 seconds of time. And here's the audio and pay me. It's like, I'm going to ask him to text me that guy's information. Yeah, at a bare minimum, you could do that and just have fun with it and make some money doing that.
Well, I've thought about calling people businesses and saying, you know what? How about changing your outgoing message? Make it fun when people call into your business, not the same old standard shit. Excuse the French. I could say that in your French accent, but I didn't. Merne is a French word for shit. Anyways, it's like I have all these ideas, but I'm looking for an animator that's looking for voices. I've got some of my own. I can impersonate voices. I enjoy doing that, but the most enjoyable is hearing people at the other end of that phone. I've got a gal in the Philippines. She's convinced that there are 8 people in my house. I said, no, that was me. Chase, I go to pay a card. It says, your voice may be used for identification purposes. Oh, yeah, which voice which voice am I going to use? Whatever, I'm an old man, whatever it might be. Every time I did this with the one, he kept doing a disclaimer. I said, dude, that's me. I'm doing those voices. He said, now, every time there's a new person on the phone, I have to. I said, I don't know if you're listening to me. That's me. He was convinced it wasn't. And I've had others say your ability to transition from one to the next, and it's a little raspy right now. Your ability is, this is a guy that won an Emmy. I'm talking to in Atlanta. He's a dude. I do Disney. And I've never heard anybody transition as quickly as you can and so smoothly. So I've got something.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in my own way. And maybe I need a good slap upside the head. I don't know what it is, Frank. And part of me also feels it. And this is going to be tough to say, but I'm going to say it anyways. I've shared other things with you. I think my maturity in a lot of ways has been, I don't feel like an old person. And I'm wondering if, maybe my business maturity, maybe I've never grown up. But if that's the case, which has kept me pretty healthy, I tell people I'll be 70. And they're like, no way, dude. There's no way. I don't feel 70, that's for damn sure. And when I go out in the kayak or whatever, I'm kicking ass. So maybe God's got plans for me. I don't know. But I need to have plans for myself, I guess. And I appreciate your
memento
support.
mori, remember you will die. That's a Stoic philosophy.
Well, yeah.
Life passes most people by as they're making grand plans for it. So now is the time. There is no tomorrow.
Oh, I know. And Robert says the most valuable property on earth, cemeteries. A lot of people just didn't. Their dreams, their hopes, their desires, they never achieved them. You know the poem, The Dash?
Mm-hmm.
Look it up because I couldn't quote it to you, but when you look at a headstone, it says 1938 to 2010, and it's got that dash in there. How did you live your dash? What took place between?
I love that.
And if you look, the poem is called The Dash. I learned that at a leadership thing, and
that's how I know I have life licked, because I am living in the present. I am so conscious of the present. It's a 10. It's a 10. It doesn't fucking matter if I'm a successful podcaster or whatever. I'm on my mission every day, and I'm pushing hard every day. I'm redlining when I have to redline. That's all that matters. I've had a great life already. The past is awesome, and the present is awesome. I can't do any better than that. Do you see what I'm saying? And I'm trying to help people unleash that awareness in their brain to utilize this tool in a way that serves you to the max. And we all have the ability to do that. And that's why, like, when you said a 5, I was like, oh, this is almost heartbreaking to me.
Well, but I'm being real with you.
No, I don't want you to be. It's just like, this is good that life brought us together, because I'll help you raise that number.
Well, I would love to. I'd like to go out on a high note. And I do think about it, I might not make it up 355. What a shame. Because we don't know when our numbers get called.
I take it
I haven't grasped that enough to realize, live every moment to its fullest. I have those moments where I do, and then I have those moments where I just...
It's practice. I call it mind yoga. You have to practice and practice and practice to push the bad stuff out. I mean, I take this stuff so deep. Like I'll wake up in the morning and I get the water going for the coffee, and I look out the window in the backyard as the sun comes up that way. And the other morning, the sky was beautiful colors, and nobody was awake except the dog. And I walked outside. I'm like, "Be a perfect day to die today." That's how I look at life. Like, I got to see another sunrise. If this is my last day, what a life. That's how I look at it. So
it makes me think, because I've never dealt well with the idea of death. And I'm wondering now, when you say that, if I accepted that death is part of the process, the final part, if that had some influence on how I've lived up to today, think, I will die. I know that here. Have I accepted it? I don't know.
It's very human not to think about death. It's unnatural to think about death. In other words,
but to accept that it's part of the cycle.
Right. And
might have an influence on how you live your life.
And embracing the uncertainty of it. When we're young, we think we can't even contemplate death.
Right.
You know, but I've had certain things that happen in my life. And like I told you, you're paying attention. When you see somebody, you're watching your surroundings, but are you utilizing that data to serve you? One of my best friends, he lives not too far from here, divorced. He had two kids, a little boy and a little girl. The little girl, Sophie, was 8 years old. One morning she woke up, she was blind. I mean, blind. Screaming, what happened? Goes, test. She's got all kinds of ocular cancer. Fucking dead in a month from being a healthy 8-year-old. That was the toughest wake I've ever been to. And I'm looking at my friend and he's devastated. And I'm going, and the next morning was when all my sons lived here. I woke up early. It was like 5 o'clock. My one son came down the stairs. He had his vest on to go drive the truck. Then an hour later, my other son came down to punch in to go to work. And I just sat there at my desk and I looked at the staircase and I got teary-eyed. I'm like, I'm just happy they're alive. That's what that lesson taught me with my friend and that little girl. So I use that as a lesson to be like, hey, I could check out too. So what is the best, most effective way for me to utilize my time right now? And that is to be grateful that I even have the time. So that's, I try to turn everything into a positive. So death and grieving and stuff like that, I'm interested in what you said, but you are kind of mastering that because you're carrying their energy. And that's awesome. That's a great way to frame out death. And whenever somebody dies and I go to the wake and I get the little card with their name on it and I'll tape the card into my journal and I'll write about that person. You know, what they meant to me, what they taught me. And if it was a person that I didn't really know that well and I went out of respect for whoever it was that I was going there for, I'll write about them too and say, this was Jackie's uncle and she said this and that about him and blah, 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 because I want there to be a written record so that person's never forgotten. Right. So when I die, my kids are going to read that journal and then their kids are going to read that journal. I'm keeping that energy alive through writing even. And that's important because the written word never goes away either.
Well, that's the term in stone.
In stone, yep. But I love that thing with the dash. That's pretty cool.
How'd you live your dash? Because the beginning and the end are not important. It's what took place in that.
And my wife, you know, periodically she'll talk about longevity, and she has a different definition of longevity. You know, her grandmother lived till she was 103, and her dad died at like 84 or something. Oh, he died too young. I'm like, well, how long do you want to live? He said, I don't know, you know, mid-90s. I go, what aren't you getting done now that you need all those years to get done? No, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I don't look at it that way. I look at it as today could be my last day and I'm going to fucking have an awesome time, you know? So
when I heard your wife's name, first I was a Cowardly Lion at Aurora University.
Oh, I'll bet you.
And
that went really well.
Job. It was in the middle of the summer. Squirrel got into the transformer, so we lost all the air conditioning in the theater. I had actually waxed out my eyebrows. I had a full costume on. My eyebrows, I went backstage and touched it, and water's pouring out of me. But I got those voices down cold. People, pictures on the front page of the newspaper. I enjoy doing that stuff. Anyways, I think I could probably sit here and talk with you, but I can't keep you any longer from what you've got going.
This was awesome.
Thank you. I can't thank you enough.